I'm going to walk through what I'm asking you to do in the first mini project. It's due in about a week. What I've asked you to do so far is look at data. Now you may have done that. You may have found a data set that you want to work with. You may have found slightly more complicated than that. And so in this video I'm going to talk about what I've shown you so far and talk a little bit about our purpose overall and what I'm asking you to do for this mini project. So I've mentioned before, what I want you to kind of wrap your head around is that mapping data allows you to engage in a sort of storytelling, to ask questions. And in this example, I'm going to walk through a demo of that. And ultimately, what I want you to do is find a data source that you're interested in, that you might be provoked to ask questions about. Like, why are those things there? In the assignment, ultimately, what I'm going to have you do is create a presentation. That can be a screencast like this one. It can be a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to have you create a presentation on our Canvas page and walk through your example. Just show us your data and show us what they get you thinking about. Now, as an example, last time I've already shown you this CSV file, which is Philly solar panel. Oh, excuse me, this is the wrong data set. I haven't shown you this one yet. Philadelphia solar installations. I worked with this as an example already. And what this is 54 different solar panel locations. I know it's 54 of them because down here I can see the number 54. I have information about them, including this pair of columns way over on the right-hand side called lat and long. Now, what I'm sure you realize that means is I know the latitude and longitude of these locations, which enables me to put them on a map. There are other ways of getting information from a data table on a map. So what I want you to do first is find a data set that you're curious about. So I'll use this one as an example. And then put it into what we call a geographic information system. In our case, we're going to use ArcGIS Online. And see what you can figure out about it, see what its spatial properties are. So in terms of what I would ask you to present, the first thing I would ask you to talk about is your data table. What are you looking at? So here you can see there are 54 rows, and I should mention I've opened this in JMP. This is the program that we're working with right now, and that's why I've held off on presenting this so far. I thought the easiest way to show you how to work with your data table would be to have you open it up in JMP once you had explored it a little bit. So here we have the CSV file that I downloaded. It was called Philadelphia Solar Installations 2016. I downloaded this from PASDA. And this is what happens when I open this file in JMP. I say File, Open, find the CSV file, which actually in JMP requires that I tell JMP to look for a CSV file. So in JMP I said Open, and then down here I said File. I can open different, or have it look for different file types. I can have it look for every kind of file I have, and then a bunch of things show up, or I can specify. And CSV files are right here, 5th from the top, 6th from the top. And then I'm just looking at, whoops, it was this one, showing me files that have that structure. This is just a real basic generic file. I use this as a demo to open it up in Google Maps, just to take a look at what happens when Google Maps reads those two fields and turns it into spatial data. So it takes the data from this data table and puts it on a map, which is kind of magical to watch. So what I'd ask you to look at is just what's in the table. Here I've got the name of each of these locations. I know who built the solar installations. I see their output, the year they were built, and so forth. Your data table may be much simpler. So for example, here is the data table I downloaded from the City of Philadelphia Department of Licensing and Inspection. And I got just the things that mention in this field photovoltaic, solar panels. So this is 1,937 locations of solar panels in Philadelphia. Now there's not much in this file. You can kind of see there are only 6 fields. I know the address, I know the zip code, I know the date that they got approval, and I know I have this field that's describing the work. So from that, if I wanted to, I could probably extract their capacity, like you see the numbers in here. I might be able to infer how much power they're generating, at least optimally. But I'd have to do some work to do that. I'd have to interpret that description of work field and have it look for numbers, and it would require some coding. So in other words, there's not a lot that I know from this table other than where are these points? And that's all we need, is a set of locations that you can say, where are these? And maybe in your case, it's just addresses. You might notice in this data table, there is no latitude and longitude. I'm going to show you that in ArcGIS Online, that's okay. It can do something called geocoding on the fly. It can read those addresses, and it's got so much data in the back end that it can sort of sift through them and use the zip code and the street address and say, oh, that address is here. It's pretty cool. It doesn't do it with 100% precision. It depends on the quality of the data that you feed in and how consistent it is with their back end, but that is at least possible. So again, what I want you to do in your presentations is first just walk through what the data set is. In this case, every row in this data set represents a location where somebody got a solar panel approved. Doesn't mean they built them, but probably most people who got approval did go ahead and build them. So you can think of this as, with some error, and it's a couple years old, at least frozen in time in 2019. There have been approvals since then as well. This is a picture of who had installed solar panels in Philadelphia. Now it's got 1,900 rows, which becomes a problem for ArcGIS Online. So if I try to open this file in ArcGIS Online, I'm going to get an error because it's too big. And so what I'll do is create a subset of this file, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. If you get that error, then make sure to watch that part of the video, and you'll create a random subset of a data table and feed that into ArcGIS Online. With the smaller file, which is 53 or so points, I was able to get that in Google Maps. I could get the solar panels in Google Maps as well and take a look at them. That tells me where they are. What's cool about ArcGIS Online is I'm able to open some of their customized data and look at those point locations. So where are the solar panels with respect to things like where are people? Where are rich people? Where are poor people? Where are there lots of students? Where are there lots of young people? Where are there lots of non-white people, etc.? We can get data largely from the Census Bureau, but from other sources as well, and look at whether or not there appears to be a pattern in our points that has some sort of relationship to other things. Make note of the fact that what I'm looking at is probably not a random distribution. I know a thing or two about Philadelphia, and I know that there are more people near center city of Philadelphia, and so it's no accident that there are more points where there are more people. And so one thing I can speculate about, based on my own kind of background knowledge, and you can do the same thing, is, okay, why are these points here, independent of anything else? That is a question to ask and think about, again, in your presentation. So in your presentation, I recommend looking at the data, maybe taking a screenshot of that and putting it on a slide, and then looking at the spatial pattern that those data create when you put them in Google Maps, like I showed you how to do in the previous demo. And then you're ready to move on and ask the question. So that answers the question, what are these data? And then what do these data look like when I map them? It could be the case that Google Maps struggles to map your data because you don't have a latitude and longitude field. If that's the case, you can skip ahead to the step I'm about to describe. Once you have a look at the spatial properties, though, and we can do that in ArcGIS Online, the next question to ask is, what sort of other information might be interesting to look at in conjunction with these points to sort of think about what's going on, what the pattern looks like?